Hey guys, welcome to the webinar. My name is Andrew Murray. You can find more about me at AndrewMurrayHQ.com. But in this webinar, I'm going to teach you something very practical, something that's going to have a lot of meaning for you and that's going to save you thousands of dollars every single year from now on into the rest of your life. Okay, this is something you can pass on to your kids. It's something you only need to learn once, and it's going to take just about 5 minutes a day. Me personally, I've used this last year to save over $25,000 on my taxes, and I'm going to show you how that works, how what deductions I was missing, and no matter what your level of tax knowledge, even if you're brand new starting out, you're going to learn some tremendous things from this webinar. So I urge you to take some notes and really get some value out of this, because once you learn this one time, you're going to be able to reuse this knowledge again and again and again. It's going to be very beneficial for you. For those that don't know me, just real quick, I've been an internet entrepreneur for over 17 years, and I've built thousands of funnels. I've helped thousands of people, learn how to make money and grow their business online. I run a marketing agency where we do marketing for local businesses, both here in Canada and across the United States. And yeah, I just have a love for teaching and sharing cool things, and I think you're going to get a lot of value out of this. So please take some notes. It's going to be very beneficial for you. I'm going to keep it as short as possible. With that said, let's jump right in. So first off, who loves taxes? I'm sure there are some people, but I think for the majority of us, most people struggle with record keeping and tax preparation. Okay, and this webinar will change how you feel about taxes, and especially when it comes to tax preparation. It's also going to put new money into your pocket. What that means is just by watching this webinar, you're going to be able to have money in your pocket that wouldn't otherwise be there because you'll be paying it to the government. And this is going to be applicable for people in Canada and also for the US. And really anywhere that you live, you're going to get some value out of this. Two things you can't cheat. I bet you know what the answer is. Death and taxes. That's pretty obvious. But what you're going to learn from this webinar is going to be very beneficial. It's not going to save your life, but it's going to save you a ton of money in the long term. Now, just a disclaimer, I'm not providing you any specific tax advice, okay? Let's be frank here. I'm telling you some things that I've learned, but you must be prepared to do your own due diligence and talk to your own tax advisor. This training is for educational purposes only, and it doesn't constitute tax or legal advice, okay? So with that being said, let's move on, okay? This is a meme. I didn't find a good high quality one, but it was a meme floating around a few years ago. Things I never learned in school. The top two are about taxes, okay? How to do taxes, what taxes are. Next, it goes into how to manage money, anything to do with banking. So how to buy your first home. These are all things that we should learn about, and no one seems to teach us how to do these things and what we should learn about it. So I'm going to be teaching you some things. These are going to be very practical things that, again, are going to be very beneficial for the rest of your life. So this is going to be a great webinar. So first, I just want to talk and get tax deductions out of the way, okay? And specifically, the difference between tax credits and tax deductions. A tax credit is a dollar for dollar credit, where, if you have $1,000 tax credit, it's going to take what you normally pay in tax down by $1,000. A tax deduction is different, okay? It's your tax rate times your write-off. So for example, let's say you're writing off 30%, as maybe the case is if you have a home office, and let's say your home office expenses were $1,000, so 30% of that is $300. So you still paid for $1,000 worth of, let's say, things in your office, but you're only getting about $300 back. So keep that in mind, okay? That being said, I'm still a fan of tax deductions, but money in the hand is always worth more. So if you don't need to spend money on something, don't let some slick sales pitch just get you to buy it just to activate a tax deduction. That doesn't make sense. Then again, anything you can reasonably deduct, absolutely do it. You should go for as many deductions as you can. So the more deductions you get, the more money in your pocket. And what this webinar is going to do is going to teach you how to supercharge your tax deductions. So let's start with your biggest overlooked deduction. Okay, I drive a Volvo XC90, and that's just a picture of my car there. Your biggest overlooked deduction is your car, and it's because it's a real pain. But you can deduct mileage for business and your expenses that you spend on your car. So what that includes gas, that includes repairs and maintenance, that includes paying a car payment. There's a couple ways that you can do it. Okay, there's the percent per mile or per kilometer, or the actual method. So the percent per mile kilometer is a little bit easier. In the United States, you're allowed to do that. In Canada, the CRA would prefer you to use the actual method, and they might force you to do the actual method, which is what you've actually spent and then broken down by mileage. So it has to be an exact figure, but it's significantly easier to do the percent per mile or per kilometer. Very easy to do. You just record the odometer, and you can get, in the United States, 54.5 cents per mile back in deductions. So if you take a trip across town and you buy a stapler and you come home, that whole trip is tax deductible, and you can deduct 54.5 cents per mile, even if you did other shopping at the mall while you were there. So the key is your tax records need to be automated. They need to be a system, otherwise you will miss out on deductions you are entitled to. And that's me there saying that quote, even though that's exactly what I did for years and years and years. In fact, for too many years that I'm not even going to admit how many years that I missed deductions, simply because I thought it was a pain to track my tax deductions because I didn't want to do it with pen and paper. So I'm going to show you a way to do that with something called Taxbot. Taxbot was created by Jake Randall, who's an investment banker on the left, and Sandy Botkin, who is a U.S. tax attorney and the author of Lower Your Taxes, Big Time, on the right. So I just want to give you some empirical proof of what Taxbot has done for me. In this estimate, I took the screenshot just before the end of the year, December 28th, 2018, $45,106.11 in total deductions that are tracked. And I want to say that because of the way I do my taxes, and I'll get into that a little bit later, this doesn't include the deductions that I have from my marketing company for things that I do on business credit cards, like when I'm paying Google AdWords, or I'm paying for my hosting and things like that. This is just deductions that I probably would have otherwise missed the majority of it. So what is Taxbot? Again, I want to keep this really short and simple. It's an app that actually handles the tax record keeping. What it does is it tracks your mileage automatically, or you can do it manually, but I'd recommend automatically. And it provides a complete profit and loss at the end of the year for multiple businesses. And so we'll get into that a little bit later, but basically if you have different businesses, so for example, I have a rental property, that's a different business from travel that I do for, let's say, my marketing company, or some other business that I have. You can have multiple businesses, and you can also track things that are quote unquote not necessarily businesses, but travel that you do to go to the auto body shop. That's auto travel, or to the doctor, or the dentist, which becomes medical travel. So those are tracked as different businesses, and we'll get into how to categorize that in a little bit. But basically what it can do is it can auto import your bank accounts so you don't miss any deductions, and it will organize your expenses, your mileage, your receipts, and your tax related documents. So let's talk about tracking mileage for the moment, okay? You set on auto track, you just turn on the switch and forget about it. It works with the GPS and motion detector, so it drops a GPS pin once you start moving, and once you're moving about 15 to 20 miles per hour, it will start recording automatically. And then it will stop once you've stopped. It stops tracking after 10 minutes of no movement, or when you start walking away from that point. So it will track your whole trip and lay it all out for you. So if you take the long route around somewhere, it's going to track that whole long route and will give you something that's audit-proof that you can actually write off. So a nice thing about tracking mileage is trips obviously can be merged or deleted. So let's say you stop and you're on the way for a business trip. Let's say you're going to the mall to meet a client. You stop to get some groceries. You stop to get a coffee on the way back or the way there. You can merge those trips so they are basically seamless, and it just shows you going to your customer's location and then back again. They can also be deleted. So if you want to delete something, you obviously can do that. But how I have mine set up is it's set up to start tracking automatically when I leave in a car. Okay. I should say that trips can also be calculated after the fact via GPS. Let's say my phone battery died and it only recorded part of the trip, or I forgot my phone. I can easily add in a phone, and they have an application interface online and also through the app where I can just put in one location, a starting location, and an ending location, and then put it in there. It's going to calculate how many kilometers that is. So I do that from time to time as well. And then you just, at the end of the day, it takes 5 minutes or less. You just swipe personal or business. And if it's personal, the IRS doesn't care where you go, where you want. They just want to know what is business. And you have to record the personal just to show, the total amount, and that the business is an accurate number. So if it is business, it will just prompt you to fill out the required info. So for example, you get to choose what business it is. I mentioned there are different businesses before and what the purpose is. So let's say I go to the dentist, I will choose the medical business because it's a medical write-off, and I'll just type in, the name of the dentist. Or I'll type in my marketing business and I see, going to see, client, John Smith. Now here's the key. Why track mileage? Well, here's the thing. It's no longer a chore to track mileage. And you will get significant deductions that most entrepreneurs are missing. This is very important, okay? You're already missing out on these deductions right now and paying too much tax. This is all done for you automatically. It's automatically going to prompt you for the required info, which is the starting address, the ending address, and the purpose of the trips. And what it does also is you get clear reports by the trip. So with the mileage total per month, as per the IRS guidelines, because they want to see how many miles, per month, and this is kilometers or miles. It works both in U.S. or Canada. How many miles, in January? How many kilometers in February? How many business and how many personal? And they just want that so the IRS person, if you ever do get audited, you can submit the report. They're going to see it's all documented there. They're not going to touch it because it's all clear, right? One of the great things about the reports is they're basically dispute proof. If you have clear information and it's laid out, you saw this person, they're not going to be calling, John Smith to make sure that you met with him on, such and such a date. They're going to look at your mileage log and see, okay, this is all documented, this is, clear, this is good. And that gives you tremendous peace of mind. So let's say you wanted to calculate mileage. So you took a trip and maybe you forgot your phone, or you forgot to turn it on, or you started and you didn't have Taxbot tracking on the auto. You just load up Taxbot, you click submit trip, and then you click calculate mileage, right, like it says on the screenshot. And that's all you do. And it will calculate the mileage. You put in the starting and the ending location and where you went, and it's done. It's going to give you that mileage, and you can deduct, again, 54.5 cents a mile. Starting to drive, if you want to do it the old-fashioned way, when you start to drive, you can click start mileage tracking and do it manually. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you certainly can do that if you want to do that. So let's talk about business trips. What are business trips? And I want to ask you if you have made any of these in the last year that you haven't deducted. So for example, meeting with a client or prospective client. Plus, again, Taxbot tracks your expenses. So you get that meal receipt as well. That's a 50% deductible, okay? And in many cases, and this is why they only allow you to deduct 50% off meals and entertainment, is you be going and buying that meal anyway, right? So you might as well meet a client, write their name into Taxbot, say you met with them, and get that 50% deductible. What else are business trips? Picking up office supplies at the mall. Let's say you need staples. Let's say you need batteries. Anytime I buy anything for my iPhone, any accessories, speakers, batteries, cords, anything to do with the computer, video equipment, drones, anything that I'm going to use in my business, I'm going to write that off. And I'm going to write off the business trip now too. See, because before I was just writing off the purchases on my business credit card, but now I'm writing off the business trips as well. Checking on rental property. Let's say you check on rental property. That's a business trip. Going to the bank to deposit checks. And then also things like going to the doctor. So that's like part of the medical business, going to see your auto body shop. That's an auto deductible. In the States, donating things to charity is also deductible. It's not deductible at the full 54.5 cents. I think it's about 14 or 20 cents a mile. But you can also deduct that thing that you gave away. And this is only in the States, not in Canada. But let's say you donate a couch, you can expense out the fair market value of that couch as a deduction. Maybe take a picture of it, which you can easily do again with Taxbot. So everything's all together. Now they also have web access. It's a great web interface. It's synced with app. I have not experienced any problem at all with the syncing in about a year and a half of using it. You can filter in the reports by any business category and or by any itemized category. So you can look at all the things that are filtered in your real estate business that are tagged as, let's say, plumbing, or you can filter by any business category. So that means, you can look at just your medical records, pull that up for the year. You can see exactly how much you've spent on medical things. Boom, in one go. It stores all the receipts digitally, which is fully acceptable by the IRS, by CRA. And you can pull up the reports with the images and the PDFs of receipts because it prompts you anytime you add an expense to have an image. So you just take a picture, you crop it out, and put in some information, and you're good to go. You're not going to have shoeboxes to add up at the end of the year, which, believe me, is awesome. Okay. You can also edit trips with the round trip toggle. Let's say you only tracked one way, but you really went round trip. You can just toggle round trip, and it will add the leg back for you automatically. So let's get into my Taxbot setup. Basically what I have is I have these different businesses so that I can break my reports up into these different things. So I have the AMHQ business. That's my marketing business. So a lot of times if I'm meeting a client or I'm buying office supplies, let's say for my marketing business, that's going to be what I'm going to write that off. Okay. Now I have a full book, so I'll get into my bookkeeping setup, my cloud bookkeeping, which is pretty awesome too, a little bit later. But this only tracks the supplemental stuff that I would have missed if I was just looking at my credit cards and that sort of thing. I have a business set up for auto, so that's anything related to auto. So gas, insurance, car payment, repairs and maintenance. I track all of that, and now a portion of all that becomes deductible. Medical, same thing. All the medical records, dentist, doctor, osteopath, chiropractor, anything that you use in terms of medical, that's deductible. Boom, you can do it right there. My naturopath, and again, I'm writing off all these trips. Rental property. So anytime I go to rental property for business, and doing anything, or anytime I buy things for rental property, boom, it goes into Taxbot. Jack's business, that's my son's business. I'm teaching him to be an entrepreneur. He's 10 years old, and he's got his own YouTube channel, and so he's starting to do different things. There's not a lot of stuff there, but if I need to buy something for him, let's say he's doing a review of a book that he's written, and that he's read, and we buy that book, because that's his business, is talking about these different things. I'm going to buy that on a separate credit card, and I'm going to record that transaction. We'll get into how that works if you don't have separate bank accounts for these small kind of micro businesses that you may be a part of. Estate travel. This is super important. I have been an executor, and I know what a nightmare it is. I know how much thankless driving and accounting that you have to do. All that stuff can be stored very simply in Taxbot. You just take a picture of everything that you're paying, and you get all those expenses. You can add the income in, all that stuff. And then finally, personal. And personal is everything else. And I actually put my, we'll get to that in the home office deductions, how I do that. So it's not just mileage that you're writing off here. And this is what's really important. This makes it a full, complete, business. Taxbot actually tracks and categorizes your income and expenses, right? So you record all your income and expenses. So for example, rental income and your expenses, you just take a picture of the itemized receipt, and you've got that expense there. So you can record expenses incurred for an estate if you're going to be an executor. Very important. Record expenses under multiple business categories, which is great, because you might want to have different businesses separate. You might want to encourage your kids to be entrepreneurial and have their own business. Well, guess what? They can see their profit and loss at the end of the year, and they can see, well, I spent this much on stuff, and I made this much, so I made this much of a profit. What a great gift to teach kids to be entrepreneurial in that real sense. You can record expenses for medical, and it's basically a complete profit and loss for a small entrepreneur who doesn't have separate bank accounts. So let's talk about separate bank accounts for a moment, okay? My marketing company, I've been an entrepreneur for many years, and I've always had separate bank accounts. But a lot of people that I've worked with, I realized don't, so they're maybe buying things on a credit card. Maybe they're buying their hosting account, or a marketing tool or an info product on with a personal credit card, or maybe they're buying Taxbot on their personal card because they only have one credit card and they don't have a separate bank account because they don't have that kind of accounting and whatever. Their business is just not at that level that it requires it. Well, this is perfect because Taxbot can actually show what the business portion is for all that, and you're not going to miss out on any deductions, because I guarantee if you're a small entrepreneur, you don't have a separate bank account, you're probably missing out on more deductions than you're getting. So the expense basics, this is really easy. You just need, and I'm just telling you this because back a few years ago I didn't know this. I kept both receipts and just kept stuffed it in a box, and just kind of like an ostrich head in the sand. So you don't need the slip that says approved or declined. You just need the itemized receipt. That's what the government wants. They want to know if you get audited, if they call to see that receipt, what it actually was, right? So what the item was that you purchased, right? So for example, if you write off something from Amazon.com and it's nothing related to business, it'll be that itemized thing, so they can see, oh, you bought this, or oh, you bought a camera which is for your business, or a webcam, or whatever the case may be. The basic question you have to ask yourself, and this is really important, is can you justify it was purchased for business purposes? okay? And in my case, you know, a lot of stuff I purchase for business purposes, and then sometimes, you know, the kids might need something, and I might give it to them, like for example, batteries, right? So I buy batteries, I keep them in my office. If the kids need something, you know, what am I going to do? Buy another pack of batteries? I got them right there. I'm going to loan them some batteries and just give them to my kids. But I can justify that purchase was for business, you know, because I have Bose headphones that take, you know, AAA batteries, and you know, that's all you need to do. You just need to have the justification for why you bought something, right? Why did you buy that piece of art? Oh, well, it was for my wall because, you know, I want to see a motivational poster when, you know, I'm in my office. Okay, that's a justification. You want to record every business expense and every business trip, okay? And that's what I wasn't doing before. You know, there were lots of times where maybe I go out for a meal, put it on, maybe I pay cash, and I wouldn't keep the receipt, I wouldn't record it, or I keep the receipt, and then at the end of the year, it'd get mixed up. Who knows if I got that deduction or not, because it was in a shoebox, and, you know, it's just not a good way to do it. The other thing that you want to record are all home-related expenses, okay? Now, personally, I record these under the personal business so I can separate them out, right? Because I'm going to deduct a portion of my home office, right? Now, I have a large home office. There's one part of my house that I use exclusively for video shooting. And if I was audited, you know, I could come over and, you know, show the agent that, yes, you know, I have all the equipment set up and, you know, move everything out of the way, and that's where I do my video shooting, right? So I actually, you know, claim 30% as a home business deduction, because based on the square footage, that's what I've decided, you know, is used exclusively for business. But I record all home related expenses, okay? So this is and you're probably missing out on some of these deductions: the principal of your mortgage, the interest, the taxes, property taxes, the insurance, and also possibly association dues. With any home or rental property, you want to record all those different things. If you have other things that you pay for, like, you know, pest control, or, you know, someone does some kind of work on the house, or you have a water filter that gets serviced, you know, those are all home related expenses. So I record all those in the personal, and then I can, you know, say, here, these are the give it to my accountant and say, you know, 30% of all these is, you know, what I'm claiming, right? So let's talk about how to do an expense in Taxbot. It's really easy. You tap on submit receipt, and then in the pop-up menu, you will basically choose upload for Smart Match or create a new expense, okay? And Smart Match is if you're having Taxbot actually, you know, sync into your bank account, which I don't, because I'm in Canada and I have too much multi-currency, so I have to have my own set of books, and I'll get to how I have that set up in just a second. But basically what you do is you take a picture of the receipt, and then you might have to crop the corners of it, make sure it's all done, and then boom, you know, if you're filling out the expense card, so that's all you need to do. Actually, you just take the photo if you're doing it in Smart Match and you got your account synced up. As I said, I don't do that. I actually fill this out every time I take a picture. So step one is I take a picture of the receipt, and then I actually first change the date, because sometimes I have a little thing on my desk where, you know, I like taking pictures in the morning. They come out better than the shadows later on in the day if there's lights in the office. So I just have a little tray here where I just keep my receipts, and you know, I usually, you know, once a week just get caught up on them, take those few pictures all at once. So I batch it. So you take a picture, and then you select the category business. So, for example, in this example, someone selected kids family, and then you do the amount, and it's going to ask you for the tax if you're in Canada. And if there is a vendor nearby, it'll pull it up on GPS, but you can just type it in and you just click save. That personal toggle right there, that's what I do for anything that is, and only for anything that is home related, right? So it's not going to come up in that total that that I showed earlier of my own account for this year. Also, keep in mind that Taxbot itself is a write-off. Okay, what I like to think of it as is as an assistant. I mean, if you think of the amount of time you'd have to scramble with that box, trying to uncrunch those receipts at the end of the year that are all crumpled in a box, it's a mess. So here are some of the benefits of Taxbot. All your receipts are organized and digitized. Okay, so if nothing can get lost, if you have a fire, you don't even need to worry about it. Okay, because it's all saved for you. It is easy to find a specific receipt for anything at any time of the year. So sometimes I'll even take pictures of personal receipts if it's something that I'm thinking maybe I might return or I might want to keep it because there's a certain warranty. I'll just take a picture of it, mark it personal. I got it in my phone for whenever, and any business that I've been to, accepts that as valid. Another benefit is your taxes are basically done for you at the end of the year, which is awesome. So taxes are done for you. You don't even need to think about it. You can print your profit and loss, and it's all good. There's less stress since I've been using Taxbot, and I've been using it for about 1.5 years. And there's a complete profit and loss report. Okay, and that's your audit-proof report. It also has attachments of all the images that you've taken. So all those pictures of receipts, they can all be printed off on the report. Also with Taxbot, you're going to get guidance on what you can and can't write off and what documentation is required. That's something that just, again, if I were speaking to my 20-year-old self, I'd say, learn it now, kid, and start doing it now, because this is something that's going to save you money for every year. More benefits, you're going to write off mileage you would otherwise have missed. And again, it's organized by month as per the tax guidelines. You can be aggressive with your write-offs because you can just, you've got everything there. You've got well-documented, very clear, organized records. And quite frankly, the CRA or the IRS is going to want to look more into someone that doesn't know what the heck's going on and has boxes and boxes of stuff and is going to be scared than someone that just has very clean, clear records. Put your taxes on autopilot. There's no more time and energy drain. If you get audited, it is much easier, okay? But you do significantly reduce your chance of getting a field audit. A field audit is where an IRS officer comes to your place of business, goes through your records, and all that stuff. And again, if you're a small business, you don't need an accountant or bookkeeper. It's going to handle the full accounting, for the purposes that you need for CRA. So I'm going to talk about my setup. I use Taxbot, obviously. That's what I'm talking about here. I use Zoho Books, which is about $70 a year. It's cloud accounting. So my bank accounts get hooked up to the cloud. Honestly, if I wasn't in Canada and I didn't have so much multi-currency, like I wasn't dealing with U.S. currency and had U.S. bank accounts at PayPal, which is a multi-currency account, major pain in the butt in terms of taxes for Canadians, in my opinion. I probably could just do all my stuff on Taxbot and just not even worry about it, not even have an accountant. Not even have a bookkeeper. But I'm just telling you, in the interest of full transparency, I have separate books for my marketing business, and that's in the cloud in Zoho Books, and that's why I do it. So I have a banker's box with manila envelopes, and I just keep all the other things in there. So for example, what doesn't go into Taxbot in my particular case is the purchases I make on credit card slips for my business, right? So let's say I buy a new laptop. I'm going to put it on a business credit card. That's going to be dealt with in Zoho Books. I'm not even putting that into TaxBot just because I got to do the Zoho Books anyhow. So that's just because of multi-currency and because of my marketing business. Otherwise, I would just be using TaxBot, but I just want to be transparent with you about that. And so that also means that those deductions don't show up when I showed you that I had $45,000 in deductions that I would have missed last year. So I have one tray in my office on my desk for receipts. They come in, process them, periodically, and just add those receipts in, because sometimes I leave them in my wallet for a couple days. That's just how life is. And I also use Mint to track my personal bank accounts. It does a great job. It's free. And I have no stress and no headaches. TaxBot is about $10 a month. So just for frame of reference. Be aggressive, okay? So in my experience, and I've been field audited, the worst that's going to happen is a deduction will be disallowed, right? So there was one time where we bought an air purifier. The CRA agent said, yeah, I don't think it's for the office, and I think they might have disallowed it. But I mean, we didn't change anything. They just kind of went on with it. Friend of mine from Minnesota, this is his advice. He said, and he told me a couple really, really great pieces of advice, like should be in a book pieces of advice. And this is one of them. He said, whenever I buy anything, it's always for the office. If I buy a lamp, it's a lamp for my home office. It may not always be for the office, but it is when I buy it. So something along those lines. And it makes a lot of sense. And again, anything you can justify that's for the office, you can write off. So for example, right now looking around my office, I have IKEA lamps. I have art on the walls. I have a little figure of a Buddha. I have a salt lamp. I have books. I got all these things. So those are all deductions, right? As long as you can justify it, then you're good. Okay? You've probably missed deductions in the past, so I would, my personal, opinion is to take advantage of what you're legally entitled to. And again, the field audit, I've been audited. It's a pain in the neck. Unfortunately, this was prior to finding TaxBot. I can't tell you how much wasted time and energy that it costs. But your records you provide are what they go by, right? And this is what Sandy Botkin says too. Your mileage log is nearly indisputable if it is complete and clear and you have who you're meeting, what you met them about. You don't need to win every proposal that you do with new clients, but you just need to show that, this is what you talked about, or you asked for referrals, or, whatever the case may be. And then you're locked down. You're good to go. And TaxBot is what keeps you secure and audit proof. Okay. And it does it basically on autopilot. So rental properties. We have a property that we rent out on Airbnb. So if we buy cleaning supplies, if we buy toilet paper or soap, it's for our Airbnb. We bought furniture for there. Any expense that you make for the property is going to be write-offable, right? And again, the mortgage, the principal, the interest, the taxes, the insurance, and the association dues, all of that is write-offable. Estate work, right? Being an executor is a thankless job. It's tough, and it's usually emotionally draining, or it can be, but it's easy to record the mileage, so you can get reimbursed for that. And again, they'll do the per kilometer, per mileage rate. It should be pretty easy if you have everything documented, and you can easily track expenses and income that go through the estate. Trust me, guys, you never know if it will come in handy. Everyone may be friends when you start the estate, but it's better to be safe than sorry. It's better to track it. Home office deduction. A lot of people wonder, should I take the home office deduction? Yes, absolutely. Okay, you get to record all your general expenses for the house. So your property bill, your tax bill, water filter, cleaning or change. We had a whole house water filter put in, because it's part of our house. We can claim that on our home office. Heating oil, firewood, pest control, HVAC service. I classify all these as personal, and then I can just tell the accountant, hey, these are my home expenses. I'm claiming this much percent for my home office deduction, and they'll just add it up. So let's say you're claiming 20% or 25% or 26%. Whatever percentage of your home you use for business, you can write all that off. And you can record all the specific office deductions, of course, furniture, batteries, office supplies, art for your office wall. That's all 100% deductible. And so I put those through the business, but the general stuff, I put through personal, and then just have my accountant add that up for me. So here's another benefit. You get a great education. Listen, you're going to pay taxes for many years. What this will do is allow you to learn how to keep more of your hard-earned money for yourself. They have Taxbot University as well, which is an option. It's something that I decided to do because I know that, I'm going to pay taxes, and I'm going to save probably more in just 1 year than the cost of Taxbot University. I forget how much it was when I took it, but I got the certificate, all that good stuff. Lastly, investments. You can claim your management fees and losses. Okay, so any management fees, any losses, trade commissions, you can claim any software, any tools, any subscriptions that you use for your investments, right? So this is kind of cool because a lot of that stuff you might have subscribed to anyway. Okay, now you can write it off. Now for investments, it must be claimed in the correct year and not added in. Otherwise, you should adjust your previous year's return. And of course, you can talk to your accountant about that. You can also write off your investment and your student loans, okay, which you should be doing. So Q&A, what do I do if it's not January 1st? Okay, I started Taxbot mid-year, I think June, and so what we did was we recorded the odometer. You can get your odometer record from the last auto service, and then just estimate the travel based on, I would say a minimum 3 months. So I just got my odometer reading, and then I started tracking, and we tracked for the last half of the year, the last 6 months, and then I basically said to my accountant, here's the last 6 months. I didn't track the first 6, and you actually don't need to. The CRA just needs, the 3 months. So if you want to just do it that way, you can do it. But the 3 months, and so we actually tracked 6 months, and I said, just double everything. And so he was like, okay, sounds good. So, it's really easy to do. Don't let that get in your way. Start now and get set for the next year. I will say I'm way more confident that I've had a full year, right? Rather than just a half year on it. It makes so much of a difference when you get around to that and you just have that full year, and, it's just so much less stress. It's just awesome. So Q&A, what if the car is non-exclusive, right? So I do most of the driving, but I actually broke my ankle playing soccer. I played in a competitive league last year, and then my wife started driving a lot more. Well, again, what you can do is you can calculate business trips after the fact. And I'll say this, they only care about the business trip. Personal mileage is everything else. So it can actually be adjusted later. As long as you've tracked the business trips, you can add in personal mileage on a month-by-month basis later to kind of complete those records, because if you didn't travel for business, all that other mileage was personal, and they don't care where you went when you're personal. So you can adjust that later. This requires a little bit of math. What can I justify as a business expense? Anything you could reasonably and confidently say to an auditor. Okay, so if I say a piece of art was purchased from my office and it's on my wall, then there's nothing they can do to dispute that, right? There's absolutely nothing they can do to dispute that. As long as I can say I bought that for business. Why'd you buy that CD player? Because I need to watch business DVDs. Why'd you buy Netflix? Because I like to watch business documentaries and have something to talk to my business colleagues about. As long as you can reasonably and confidently justify anything, then it's a business expense. Also keep in mind the name of the vendor, right? If I claim something as hosting, but it comes up as the little chocolate shop, you're going to run into problems. But, be realistic about stuff. But, certainly there's a lot of things that you can justify as business and get that benefit from it. So write-offs, here's what you can write off. Anything business related, anything medical related, anything home related, okay, deductible for your home office, we talked about that. Anything auto related, meals and entertainment with potential clients, you need to know who was there, where, when, why, and how much, how much you spent. In the States, you don't need receipts for things under $75. It's good to do. It's good to have. And again, with meals and entertainment, keep in mind, like if your itemized receipt, you can claim a little bit more than the itemized receipt because of tip, right? Because tip obviously isn't going to show up on the itemized receipt, which is another tip. And then parties at home, anything that I purchased for those parties. So let's say I have people over and I'm going to ask them for referrals at some point during the dinner or drinks or whatever, like that can all be written off, right? So we like to cook and, like we tend to cook bigger things. That all gets written off if it's for business. So what I'm talking about is you are 100% missing out on tax deductible trips and expenses, okay? Taxbot is $10 a month. I think if you buy it for the year, it's $100 a year. Fantastic value. I'm a big fan of outsourcing. I always love being able to, like, I have a VA in the Philippines, VA in Texas, and I have people do things for me that I can just pass off. And it's one of the great gifts, something that I learned from Tim Ferriss in the 4-Hour Workweek. And this is one of those things, like, even just calculating up the reports and if you paid someone to do that, you'd spend $100, just doing that. So it's really awesome. Tax time is no longer stressful, and that's huge. Just think about that for a second. And imagine the time that you'll save. Everything is going to be itemized, totaled up for you. You're going to be so confident because you have all the receipts, everything lined up. And it's absolutely critical. Like, I would say this is a must-have. If you are not using a dedicated business bank account, Taxbot is not even optional. You need to do it because you don't want to get audited if you don't have separate business bank accounts and you don't have everything documented properly. So if you are commingling, please get Taxbot. So it's a mileage and expense tracking. There's a 2-week free trial you can get using the link below. I would highly, highly recommend that you take advantage of it because it is awesome and it's going to change your life. Once again, this was just a few days ago. $45,106.11 in total deductions. That's the estimate. And you see I've got auto track enabled. All my income, all my expenses, all my stuff that's not through my marketing company is in there. And then there's also stuff from my marketing company that I would have missed, like if I went for a meal, maybe paid cash and I kept the receipt, because I just have all the books in the cloud. So this stuff is stuff I would have been missing out on. That mileage is definitely stuff that I was missing out on, and it tracks it all for me. And it's been very, very significant. So when you think, I have $45,000 in deductions that cost me, $100 to track and manage and keep track of and store it. And all my stuff is stored, like all my receipts are stored. I don't need to worry about fires or anything or calculating, and I can find everything whenever I want. It's pretty awesome. So as you can see, I'm a big fan of Taxbot, I've been using it for a year and a half. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And, I think that, if you have any kind of business, even if you have a marketing business like me, like there's trips you can justify where you're going to start writing stuff off that I guarantee you wouldn't be writing off if you weren't using Taxbot. So do yourself a favor, take the headache and the stress away from taxes, take the 2-week trial, hit that link below there. I got the annual plan on Taxbot just because it made sense. One less transaction to do accounting for, save a couple months in the process. But hey, that's just me. Try it out. But seriously, this is something that is going to save you literally thousands of dollars every year for the cost of $100. It's incredible. So it's one of those things where technology has really been like, yes, like we are here now. This is awesome. Guys, so get Taxbot, take the trial. I'd love to hear your feedback on this presentation, on this webinar. If you have any comments or anything, get in touch with me. I'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions. But get on your 2-week trial, get it started early, often, whatever time of the year it is right now. Get started right away on Taxbot. You're going to love it. And thanks, guys. We'll see you on the next webinar. Take your 2-week trial. Click the link now. That's it for tonight. Thanks.